Have you ever been with someone you genuinely love and still felt your whole body waiting for them to leave? Nothing bad happened. They did not offend you. You were not angry. But when the door finally closed and their footsteps disappeared, your shoulders dropped, your breathing changed, and a version of you that had been missing all evening quietly returned. That feeling can be confusing. If I love them, why does their absence feel like relief? Here is the answer most people never give you. Being meant to be alone does not mean you are destined to be lonely. It does not mean you are incapable of love, friendship, or intimacy. It may simply mean that solitude plays a larger role in your psychological balance than it does for most people. For you, being alone is not an empty space between meaningful moments. It is one of the meaningful moments. Usually, nothing is wrong. The misunderstanding begins because people confuse affection with unlimited availability. If you love someone, they assume you should always want access to them. If you enjoy your friends, you should want to see them more often. If you are happy, your calendar should look full. But human connection does not work that way for everyone. For some people, the presence of another person keeps part of the mind switched on. Even during a comfortable conversation, you are reading expressions, noticing changes in tone, choosing the right moment to speak, and adjusting yourself to the emotional atmosphere. Much of this happens automatically. You may look completely relaxed while your attention is doing quiet work in the background. This is why you can feel tired around people who have done absolutely nothing wrong. You are not necessarily tired of them. You are tired of the part of you that remains responsive while they are there. The moment you are alone, that responsibility disappears. No expression needs interpreting. No silence needs filling. No one is waiting for a reaction. Your attention finally belongs entirely to you again. Research on solitude helps explain why this can feel so powerful. In controlled studies, brief periods alone reduce the intensity of both pleasant and unpleasant emotions. Solitude did not simply make people happier. It helped turn down the volume. Think of it as an emotional dimmer switch. After a day filled with voices, decisions, requests, and reactions, your mind may not need more excitement. It may need less of everything. This is especially important if your daily life requires you to act more social than you naturally feel. Personality psychologist Brian Little uses the term free traits to describe behaviors people adopt in service of something they deeply value. A quiet teacher may become animated in front of a classroom. A reserved manager may lead an energetic meeting. A private person may become warm and talkative because someone they love needs support. None of those people are being fake. They are stretching beyond their natural tendencies for a meaningful reason. But stretching still uses energy. Little calls the places and routines that help people recover restorative niches. It might be a silent drive, a locked bedroom, an early walk, or 20 minutes with no conversation and no phone. The activity can look insignificant from the outside while being essential on the inside. People often misread the result. They call you distant because you do not respond immediately. They call you antisocial because you would rather see one close friend than attend a crowded gathering. They assume you are afraid of commitment because you need time alone even inside a loving relationship. But needing distance from stimulation is not the same as wanting distance from love. In fact, you may care so deeply that constant, low-quality connection feels worse than temporary space. You would rather give someone 1 hour of real attention than spend an entire day beside them while feeling mentally absent. You do not want fewer meaningful relationships. You want fewer moments in which closeness becomes an obligation you can no longer feel. There is another reason solitude may feel necessary. When you are alone, almost nothing has to be negotiated. You can eat when you are hungry, change your mind without explaining it, leave a room without anyone asking where you are going, let a thought remain unfinished. Sit in silence without worrying that the silence means something. For a few hours, your life returns to its natural pace. Solitude can also be where your identity becomes easier to hear. Around other people, you may adapt quickly. You sense their mood, match their energy, and consider their needs before you have checked your own. You can be so good at this that you leave the interaction knowing exactly how everyone else feels, but having no idea what you feel. Then you spend an hour alone and your internal voice slowly returns. You realize that you were tired, that a comment bothered you, that you agreed to something you did not want, that you have been carrying a decision all week without giving yourself enough quiet to make it. For you, solitude is not a rejection of the world. It is where you separate your own voice from all the voices you have absorbed. Sometimes, this preference is simply part of your temperament. Sometimes it also has a history. If you grew up in a home where moods changed quickly, being around people may have required constant observation. You learn to read footsteps, facial expressions, and small changes in tone. Your bedroom may have been the only place where nothing unexpected was being asked of you. Or perhaps independence was praised while emotional needs felt inconvenient. You became the person who handled things alone, because doing so created less conflict. Years later, solitude still feels like competence, safety, and freedom. This does not mean everyone who enjoys being alone has childhood trauma. Personality should not be turned into pathology. But for some people, time alone became comforting long before they had language for why. This is where the phrase "meant to be alone" needs to be handled carefully. Psychology cannot tell you that you are destined to remain single, live without friendship, or avoid intimacy forever. Your personality is not a fortune teller. But if meant to be alone means your life functions better when solitude is protected, then the phrase may contain some truth. The goal is not to eliminate connection. It is to create a form of connection that does not require you to abandon yourself. The healthiest relationships for you may be the ones where two people can share a room without performing, spend time apart without creating a crisis, and return to each other without punishment or suspicion. This requires communication. Disappearing without explanation can hurt people, even when your reason is exhaustion. But forcing yourself to stay available until resentment appears hurts the relationship too. Sometimes, one honest sentence can protect both sides. "I care about you. My mind is overloaded tonight. I need some quiet, and I would like to talk tomorrow." There is also an important question you should ask yourself. What does being alone give back to you? Healthy solitude tends to return something: energy, clarity, patience, creativity, a stronger desire to reconnect. You enter it feeling crowded inside, and you leave with more room for life. Unhealthy isolation usually moves in the opposite direction. Your world becomes smaller. Messages feel more frightening the longer you ignore them. You want connection, but fear, shame, numbness, or hopelessness keeps you away from it. You do not emerge restored. You emerge more disconnected from yourself and everyone else. The difference is not always how many hours you spend alone. It is whether your solitude feels chosen and flexible, or compulsory and impossible to leave. A quiet weekend can be healing for one person and deeply painful for another. The room may look identical. The internal experience is not. If being alone no longer brings relief, or if you are hiding because you feel unworthy of being known, that deserves attention. Reaching out to someone you trust or speaking with a mental health professional does not make you less independent. It simply means you are not using the language of solitude to cover pain that actually needs connection. But if time alone consistently brings you back to yourself, you do not need to apologize for building it into your life. You do not need a busier calendar to prove that you are loved. You do not need to answer every message immediately to prove that you care. And you do not need to become someone who enjoys constant company just because that version of happiness is easier for other people to recognize. Some lives are full because many people are in them. Other lives are full because there is enough silence for one person to notice what truly matters. Your quiet home, your long walks, your private routines, and your small circle are not necessarily signs that life has passed you by. They may be the structure that allows you to participate in life without losing yourself inside it. So, the next time a door closes and your entire body relaxes, pay attention. That relief is not proof that you are cold. It is information. You can love people and still need freedom from being perceived. You can be loyal and still require distance. You can enjoy connection without wanting it every hour of every day. Maybe you were never meant to be lonely. Maybe you were meant to belong to yourself so completely that your relationships become choices, not escapes. Maybe being alone is not where your life becomes empty. Maybe it is where you finally become present enough to feel how much life is already there. If this felt familiar, finish this sentence in the comments. I feel most like myself when. Your answer may help someone else realize that needing solitude does not make them broken. And if you want more psychology that helps you understand the parts of yourself other people often misread, subscribe and stay with us.